it's Liz from Thrice, and it's Web3 Wednesday. I'm actually down in El Salvador this week, and I was going to talk about what's happening with Bitcoin and crypto down here. But with the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, I figured that really is the topic. So if it wasn't bad enough that we had the SBF FTX scandal and everything else that happened over the last 6 or 8 months, now we have Silicon Valley Bank completely gone, and a lot of the crypto companies were using that bank. So what's next for crypto? Well, first of all, we all know that the tech and innovation sector banked heavily with SVB, but fortunately the recovery was swift. I think we were all lucky that the collapse happened toward the end of the week, and we had the weekend to let cooler heads prevail and have the Fed come up with a solution to make depositors whole. And I think that solution is a pretty good one in the sense that the management wasn't bailed out, but the depositors were. And that's an important differentiation. So, there was a little bit of panic when Roku had 50 million in cash and what was going to happen there. Etsy sellers weren't paid, and there was a lot of threads on Twitter and whatnot that were saying, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm going to leave Etsy, etc. And, people were saying that it was unlikely things were going to go to zero because the cash wasn't fortunately spent on risky investments. It was in treasuries. They were just too long term for SVB to be able to keep up and get all the depositors the money when there was this so-called run on the bank. So crypto was also hit hard. The biggest sort of immediate news was USDC, which is a stable coin, became unstable. And what that means as a stable coin is that it's backed with fiat, regular dollars, on a one-to-one basis. So USDC had about 23% of the backing in cash and 77% of that backing in short-term securities, not the longer-term securities that SVB had, but things that are 3 months or less. So of that 23% that was backed with cash, that was about $10 billion, and a third of that was held at SVB. So when this news hit, USDC dropped as low as 88 cents to the dollar. I just checked before making this video, and it's back to 0.9994 to the dollar. So it has recovered, given that all depositors are going to be made whole. And, I think we'll certainly see some more diversification from companies now in terms of what banks they use, but at least we didn't have a complete crash. The other thing that happened in the crypto world is there are two banks, Signature Bank and Silvergate, that both failed. This was, certainly directly related to SVB, but they were already in pretty bad shape. Signature Bank was already teetering after the FTX collapse. When people realized that they had a bunch of cash at SVB, those depositors said, we can't take any more, and pulled all their money, and that bank collapsed. Silvergate is another bank that was banking all kinds of different people, but using a lot of their crypto-related deposits to invest in mortgage-backed securities and bonds that were sold at state and local governments. And as interest rates were going up, they too had the same problem as SVB. Depositors wanted their money. They couldn't sell these bonds and mortgage-backed securities, for the prices that they paid for them. And so they also went out of business. So we've lost a couple of banks that were heavily banking the crypto industry. SVB, of course, was the number one bank in the tech and innovation sector. And now people are kind of wondering what happens next. So are there some silver linings? Well, one silver lining I think that a lot of people were talking about on the financial news over the last few days is that the things that were put in place, the regulations put in place in 2008, seem to have allowed this one bank to fail without a major contagion happening. So those regulations paid off. And, Janet Yellen was talking about how she doesn't really see this as a bailout. They are making depositors whole, but they are not bailing out the management or the shareholders of the bank. I think we'll probably also see a further culling of the herd of questionable business models in the crypto space. Anytime there's a scandal, cream rises and everything else kind of falls to the bottom. And sometimes the good companies also fall, but they find ways to come back. And, perhaps banks that are banking crypto will be a little more conservative. We'll see a little bit better fiduciary responsibility happening. There are a lot of opinions about what happens next. I listened to the Prof G podcast over the weekend, and Scott Galloway was saying that this opens a major opportunity for a big bank to come in and in effect overnight start banking the technology innovation sector that took Silicon Valley Bank 4 decades to build. So will be very interesting to see what happens there. I think HSBC in London has already bought SVB's UK assets, and I think we're probably going to see more of those kinds of things. So anyway, that is what we've got for this Web3 Wednesday. I think we can all take a little bit of a sigh of relief that our portfolios are still in shape. And while there are, of course, always winners and losers, the losers could have been a lot worse this time. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.